All right, let the games begin. I'm going to invite the fabulous Elise Smith up here to be my official question asker, so then I only have to worry about the answer part.
Well, I get to worry about the question part. I wasn't receiving very many questions at the beginning, and so I thought I would do well by asking everyone to ask 2 questions, and now they just keep on coming. So I tried to categorize them, and I thought, is that going to get too boring? So this may be haphazard. If I'm redundant, someone say, we already answered that one, move along. A little participation from you guys to make sure that this is active and engaging. That will really help a lot. My apologies to you in advance for how this might be a little chaotic. It'll be all right.
I love you, Elise, at least right now.
Well, we've got some of the good ones in the back here. All right. So the original question that I understood had to do with sort of about spirituality. But then some folks found that a little too limiting, so we opened it up more to things about church or congregations or Chris or the cosmos. So let's see how this goes.
Okay.
All right. So, yes, you can talk. So let's start with, what is the definition of spirituality? What does it include? What does it not include? How does a person work toward it? Am I doing it right?
We're going to have to break that down to one question at a time.
Yeah. Well, or if you want to just paraphrase about what is spirituality so that we understand, if we're talking about spirituality, what is it?
Well, I'll preface this by saying there are many answers to this question. This is mine. When I think of spirituality, especially in the context of Unitarian Universalism, it can obviously, as a lot of you know, it can mean a lot of different things. It doesn't mean just one thing, just one answer. I tend to think of spirituality as the part that is not the mind and not the body, right? Spirituality is that thing that intangible thing that you kind of know it when you feel it, right? But it's hard to describe. You know, those moments when you think there's something more out there, I'm connected to something bigger. You're out of your everyday life and existence just for brief moments when you kind of leave things open up and you feel like, hey, I know what this is all about. I know why I'm here. Unfortunately, we don't always have those spiritual moments as often as we'd like to because we are feeding the dog, or watching the children, or going to work, or driving in traffic. So I think of church as a place where we actually get to practice being spiritual beings because it's easy to lose touch with the fact that we're spiritual beings in our daily lives. And that's my continuing struggle and practice to be in touch with my spiritual life so I can help everyone here be in touch with their spiritual life. How's that?
That's a good lead-in for the next 2 questions that we'll kind of combine.
Okay.
So, dear Chris, what questions are you wrestling with these days, and are your beliefs about the divine spirit of life, what are they, and how did the relationship with those inform your ministry?
Another softball.
I didn't write them.
I'll start with my relationship with the divine. So my personal, or you can call my personal theology. And I probably answered this before in many different contexts, but so you might just have to hear it again. For me personally, I don't believe in the deity that a lot of us have learned about growing up in Christian Sunday school. Generally the old man on the throne with the beard. He always has to have a beard for some reason, I don't know why. But I do have a sense of the divine, and to me, it changes from day to day actually how I might describe it, but in general, it's something like this. It is the sum of all things. It is the great mystery from where we come. It is that mysterious thing that all binds us together in our humanity, in life, in our universe. And that's enough for me. It doesn't have to be somebody who talks to me or I necessarily talk to in direct conversations, although I still talk to the universe once in a while. But for me, it's enough knowing that I am connected to something much bigger. And that if I do things in my life to cultivate my awareness of that so I can live into that, my life will most likely be better than if I am just an individual in this scary world doing it all alone. There are other parts of that question. Could you remind me?
I'm sorry, I've got to turn those over. Just how your beliefs inform your ministry and what you're wrestling with. Those were the two questions.
Okay. Yeah, I think the wrestling question, that's a good question. I'm like everybody else. I think I mentioned a little earlier, I struggle to stay in touch with the spiritual side. So I give everyone out there lots of sympathy if you're having the same struggle, because it's hard for all human beings, no matter what you do for a living. When it comes to struggles with church and my life as a minister, I've been here 3 years now. This is starting the 4th year of my settled ministry. And what ministers, people tell me, there's actually a life cycle of a minister in a congregation, and you can predict certain things in the different years. And the 4th year, which I'm about to begin, is really the time when you start thinking, well, what is going to happen as a result of my ministry here? What difference can I make in this community? How will this evolve, or will it not? So those are the things that I'm thinking about right now.
This is a really hard one. How does a new person in the church become a member?
Wow, simple on the surface, but multiple levels there.
Okay. Well, let's look at the clock we've got.
All right, yeah, we've got a while to go. Yeah, we've got a good, well, you know, the process itself is simple. We have a new to you class where you learn about Unitarian Universalism, you learn about this congregation, how it works. In terms of requirements, it's necessary, as we said in the offertory, that we're a free church. That means we have to pay for it. We do require a financial contribution from our members, but that is, we ask people to be as generous as they can be in consideration of the means they have. So the idea is to be as generous as you can possibly be for yourself. Give until it feels good, right? All right, and then the other thing we make you do that is really onerous and terrible is that we make you sign a book, and we clap for you in a worship service and cheer you on as a new member. But those are pretty simple kind of, you know, checklist kinds of things. But I think becoming a member, or even just joining, participating in this community has a lot more levels to it. And I would hope they would continue ongoing curiosity about what Unitarian Universalism is, reading and studying and taking classes and participating fully, talking it over, right? A lot of us learn best when we're kind of talking over those thoughts in our heads. Finding ways to get involved and build relationships. I think those are much more important, actually, than taking a class and signing a book and making a pledge.
This is sort of related, maybe. There are a lot of women in positions of responsibility in the church, in the board, working up here, taking care of kids, that sort of things. But why is it that it's mostly men who take the money? A suggestion might be...
There's an answer coming.
Okay,
Not
well,
for me, I can feel it.
I don't know what the answer is, except could we have more women joining those men to symbolically show that women can take money too?
Are any of our ushers willing to step aside if any woman demands to take your job from you? There's two. Are all three here today? 3 here. Steve, are you willing to give up your position if a woman demands it?
Well, we always have 3 people, but yeah.
Okay, all right. So do not be afraid. Oh, Bill?
I have on occasion asked women to help, and some have. I know that we do get help, but we don't have a large number that want to do it.
Okay, so I don't think we're dealing with discrimination here.
Let me know.
Right, I think any women who want to collect the money and touch the money and count the money, all you have to do, you can't keep the money, but all you have to do is step up and ask, and I think one of these fine gentlemen would be more than happy to give you a shot.
All right, and related to that then, Chris, what can we as members do to attract and keep more members?
All right. Isn't this the question? Like, oh, we're at 100 members. We've always been at 100 members, and we can't get above 100 members. Number one, you have to want more members. You don't have to just want them for their pledges or to fill volunteer slots so you don't have to do as many things. You have to want to be in relationship with people you don't know yet, right? And for a lot of us, we're introverts, that's scary. We'd rather talk to our friends who've been known forever because we have a busy week and we have 1 hour and we want to catch up all in that time. But man, the whole mature spiritual communities, they take the new person and the person who hasn't even arrived yet, and they're putting that person, those people, they're putting them first, right? And that can be a radical thing, right? Like, I come to church because it meets my spiritual needs. Right? We don't always think, well, I'm here today. I don't really feel like being here at church today, but I need to be here because there's someone who might come in that door today who really needs to talk to me. It's that attitude, that heart shift from this church is about its members to this church is about out there and all the people who might want to be in here, and making those people feel comfortable and welcome and open avenues for them to participate. That's where the magic happens.
And speaking of magic, what can we do to make our church more attractive to have people volunteer to pass the basket, to serve on the board, to work in a potluck? How do we get them involved, not just taking advantage of them, but make them want to feel involved? As members, what can we do?
Yeah, well, contrary to popular belief, new people often want things to do because, it allows them to meet people. It gives them a sense of purpose. So you don't want to take a new person and give them a 50-hour-a-week dreaded, really hard church job. Not that, or put them on the board the first day they walk in the door. But asking people to participate in small things is a great entry-level opportunity. I think in this church, in terms of volunteers, we're often afraid to ask people to do things, and that is a big barrier, because sometimes people are just waiting to say yes, but no one asks them. So I think we should maybe have a rule that that we should ask people to help with things, and if you get asked to help with something, if you absolutely can't say yes, say no in a very, very polite, affirming way so the person who's asking does not get discouraged. Right? And there's more we can do in terms of getting the communication out to people. We don't have a lot of active sign-up things, and that doesn't seem to have been a culture in here. We've often relied on the same person doing the same thing for a really, really long amount of time. So we're not really good at inviting in new people to do things and changing jobs and shifting things. I'm not sure what the exact answer is to that, but if anyone has the answer, come see me, and we'll get this all taken care of.
Good. All right, so we've got a lot of different kinds of people, tall, short, young, old, Christian, atheist, wandering, spirituality people. How do we coexist with each other without offending each other, without saying things out of line, so that our whole congregation feels united? How can we as individuals, whether we're new folks walking in the door or old folks who have been here for a while?
I'm going to ask for audience participation for this one because I think you knows the answers.
I say let's just fall back to the Constitution, freedom of speech.
Yeah, there's a tension in Unitarian Universalism. We have one of our principles talks about freedom, free and responsible search for truth and meaning. So we have freedom in our theology, but we're also called to be responsible. We also have covenants, right? We have our covenant that holds us together in our behavior so that we can have different thoughts and feelings about things, but we have ways we pre-agree to be together. And these are the things that we really need. Like when things are going great, oh yeah, covenant, whatever. But when things are getting tense, right, those are the things we need to go to, because the covenants of our covenant of positive relations out there, the covenant we recited earlier today, those are the things that hold us together amongst diversity of theological belief.
And love.
Oh,
And love, good.
Ray wants us to recognize people with their hands.
Go ahead, you can recognize them.
Margaret was the first one, I think.
Yeah, I think that it's sometimes just as simple as, if you've been here for a while, smiling at people when they come through the door and calling them by name. It always makes me feel good in a new place when somebody learns my name and calls me by it. And by the way, that includes the children in our church too. I think one year we just really asked everybody to try to make it a point to learn the names of every child who is in this church. And I think that makes the children feel more a part of things as well.
Who was next? Sure.
Oh, okay. What's prettier? A field with just one type of flower, or a field with a whole bunch of flowers that are different kinds? They come from upstate New York. There's a field with a whole bunch of flowers of different kinds. And it's really cool that people have different beliefs, because none of us know what's going on, especially the ones who think they do. So we should be excited that people have different perspectives we can learn from and we can share ours with.
And there was an,
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street. I think that we need to be aware and conscious of what we are saying, and we also have to be aware and conscious that others may not be informed when they speak. And in the same way that we say, treat others as you would like to be treated, well, it goes for the speaker and for the listener. And sometimes the speaker is speaking out of, I won't say ignorance, but a lack of being fully informed. And sometimes the hearer is responding because what's being heard is rubbing old wounds. And so dialogue on these subjects and being open, we are a family, and in any family, you have to be willing to step out on the ledge and address the things that are the elephants in the room.
thank you for that.
Otherwise, they never go away.
Good point.
See, y'all have the ability to answer these questions too.
Well, here's a slightly different one for you. This has to do with the congregational spirituality in the service, like right now. Why can't the chairs be put back into the theater of the round, making for a more community-friendly atmosphere? And for those of you that don't recall or haven't seen this, we've had a configuration before where the chairs were in a half circle with aisles so that you could see the faces of the people around you in the congregation. And I think there's a part two. Having the chairs in a more circular pattern helped me, the writer says, helps me feel more connected, both with the service and the rest of the congregation. I miss that and want to know, why was that abandoned?
I have a really simple answer for that. I like the chairs in the round too. It's harder to make arcs with chairs than it is to make straight lines. And every Thursday night we have a Tai Chi class here that clears these middle sections of chairs out and uses the space and then puts the chairs back. When we left the chairs in an arc, the Tai Chi group had trouble recreating the arc, so the arc was lost when they put the chairs back and into straight lines. So if we can keep the chairs in an arc if we have enough people willing to help maintain it, and also if the Tai Chi group, which is a rental group, it's not our own Tai Chi group, is to the degree that they're willing to put the time and the effort, and we're willing to put in training with them and how to maintain the arcs. It's a technical problem, really, not a philosophical one.
And if you have a feeling about that, or you love it or you hate it, if you would let me know, we could be taking a survey to see what it's worth, effort versus the benefit. And did you have a comment?
Yeah, if folks really want the art, all we gotta do is put down a little strip of tape.
Yep, spots.
These return chairs to
Yep, good point.
Mark.
We'll be
Yeah.
talking with you about. We just love people volunteering, so thanks so much. So here's another question, Chris. This is related to the service. Shaking hands was once a part of our service. It contributed to my feeling of connecting spiritually with other members of the congregation. We used to hold hands across the aisles. And we do recognize that there are germs and things out there, so if there's other options to consider, like holding each other's wrists or shoulder, or something so we're not spreading germs, at least one person would feel more spiritually connected. And I heard a couple of yeses, so just something to consider.
Could I just take a poll for those who feel strongly about it? Actually, no. You all should close your eyes. I'm going to look at the results, but you're not all going to be able to see what everybody thinks, okay? You
It's
trust
anonymous.
me? All right. Everyone who feels strongly about holding hands, raise your hand.
Feel strongly in a positive way or
What?
Oh, wants to, yes. Holding
Wants to.
hands, yes. Raise hands. Hands down. Holding hands, no. Hands down. Doesn't matter either way. Hands up. All right. Okay, so the results are, it's a three-way tie. Is that correct? Is that what you saw, Elise?
Yeah, it was pretty much. Maybe we can talk about that more, about holding shoulders or something, or the hands and the non-hands.
Oh, wow, we're getting close to that time.
Yes, Ray is pointing at the clock.
Should we have our final question?
Do we have only one, Raymond?
Depends on how long you take.
We do have a closing song.
We do have a closing song. So some of these, I apologize, we didn't get to all of them. Tyler, did you need to say something?
So in regards to the hand holding thing, I mean, it's my first time here. I don't know if my input matters or not, but I will volunteer that I do not really like holding hands, but I would be opposed if those who did want to do that did it, not just, my question.
it's fun.
All right, in case you didn't hear that, Tyler said as a new person, he's not totally down with the holding hands idea, but he wouldn't get in the way of other people holding hands and that he would fist bump. So I think basically the bottom line here is that everyone after the service should give Tyler a fist bump. Last question?
I have to apologize to Art, who had a really good question, and I am not finding it. I am so sorry that we will do it next Sunday, because we have a tradition, Chris and I, year 2. The last question is always, what question did we not ask you that you would really like to answer now?
And of course, this is the question I'm totally unprepared to answer.
Make something up. Could I rephrase it?
Yes.
Last year I asked, what is the one question you were hoping no one would ask?
Oh, yeah, I remember that one, and I remember my answer from last year, which really isn't the same. Honestly, I was just afraid of some really technical question about Unitarian Universalist history, or something that someone, I would have really had to Google my way out of. But that didn't happen because y'all just aren't really that technical, I guess.
It could have been one that was asked that we,
It could
Didn't
be
make it
in
to
the
the top of
pile,
the pile.
yes, that's possible.
you also mentioned last year that you were glad there were no children here, asking if you were getting married anytime soon.
Thank you for bringing that up, Elise.
So any last comment that you would like to make?
No, I think we're good. I enjoyed we had more, this was not such a participative activity last year. Let me know how you feel about that. I think it's a little bit more fun, not just having to listen to my own voice during this whole thing. But, Kathy?
Well, I was just curious for the questions that didn't get asked and answered, but you have cards for, are they something that we could see like in a future newsletter or something?
Yes.
Then we don't have to hear the voice too. No, I'm just
I will pass them on and she can deal with them.
That'll be right after my column on why Unitarian Universalist ministers deserve more respect.